Hello, I'm Raggy Omar and this is Witness. South Africa's bloodless transition from apartheid to Rainbow Nation shines like a beacon of hope when set alongside other more troubled African nations like Zimbabwe and Kenya. But even in South Africa, the pressures of the imbalance in land ownership, where 4/5 of the country's productive agricultural land is still in the hands of the white minority, are beginning to show. It's led to a series of violent attacks on mainly elderly white farmers. It's all part of the price they have to pay because, as they see it, there's no white in the rainbow. And now those farmers, as Martin Himmel discovered, have begun to resort to desperate measures.
Just driving down this dusty road near Valwater, South Africa, is an act of courage for Salome Wessel. In her mind, the bush teems with danger. The routine of sliding back the gate to her farm sparks the terror she felt 6 months ago.
It is the first time I went home alone. I was so threatened, I couldn't breathe.
A half year ago, she and her husband Jan had just pulled up near their front door. Their dog was barking fiercely behind the house. So Jan ran around the back to see what was wrong. She was still in the car when 4 men armed with axes and knives jumped her.
There was pain, that awful pain that I felt when the guy hit me with the axe. The gate represents the attackers. I was afraid of that gate, to open the gate. I was very, very afraid.
Out back, Jan realized what had set off their dog.
And the moment when I turned around, there was 2 guys standing in the plants here. They stabbed me here in my leg, and they stabbed me in my chest. And I knew that I must get rid of these guys, otherwise they're gonna kill me. I must fight for my life, otherwise I won't see the sun coming up the next day again.
I opened the door, tried to climb out. He started hitting me with an axe. This finger was broken. They hit me 8 times over my head, and he hit me with the hammer side of the axe.
I grabbed the blade of this knife, and luckily it broke off there. And then I went for them with this knife, and I started to stab him, and then they ran away.
I was asking him, please, don't hit me.
All of a sudden I realized my wife must be somewhere.
My husband came around the chalet, and I saw him.
And then I took this knife and I said to this guy, look, I'm going to kill you with this knife. But then I also realized that I couldn't walk well because my one leg didn't want to move. But as he saw the knife, the 2 guys by the vehicle now, they just looked at me and they ran away out the gate where we came in.
Salome and Jan suffered serious wounds, but they did escape with their lives. Many white farmers in South Africa have not been so lucky. More than 2,000 have been murdered since the end of apartheid 12 years ago. The attacks have escalated sharply in the past couple of years. Being a white farmer in South Africa has become one of the most dangerous occupations in the world. Jan and Salome were grateful that their 14-year-old daughter Rioletta was in a boarding school the day of the attack. Usually the assailants target older, more vulnerable farmers. These police photos show the horrific fate of many victims. They are often tortured, raped, robbed, and then murdered. Salome, like many of the Afrikaner farmers, believes the government looks the other way and fails to go after the murderous gangs to force whites off the land.
There is no place in the workstation for white people. There's no place in schools for white people. There's no place for us anywhere in the new South Africa. They go on talking of a rainbow nation. what is a rainbow nation, do you realize there's no color white in the rainbow? So the white people of South Africa don't have a place in the rainbow nation.
As soon as their attackers had fled, Salome and Jan called their neighbor, Christo Grease. A former commando and tracker, Christo got to the farm long before the police ever showed up. White farmers never expect the police to launch a serious investigation, so it was Christo who followed the assailants' tracks.
Okay, they've attacked Mr. Wessels over there. Got the tracks over here, and it's nice, fresh tracks, and we've made a copy of it, and then we start tracking it from here. We've catch the first one in bed, in his house. And we catch the next one, also in his bed with blood and the money they stole from Mr. Wessels. So we've got all 4 of them.
I'm thinking that the police is discriminating against white people. They are so slow for helping us. Why are they not coming when we found them? Please come and help us. They are not coming.
Dr. Sifo Sibanda, the Deputy Minister of the Land Reform Program, vehemently denies that there is tacit cooperation between the police and the gangs who attack white farmers.
That's not true, because ineptness of police should not be taken as state policy. It could be the few individual police who don't respond. Even here where we live in Centurion, my house has been broken into. One time it was broken into at 11 o'clock in the morning. The police arrived here at 3 o'clock. So it's just ineptness of the particular police. We cannot generalize and say that is the generic situation throughout the country.
Select the best answer.
Salome is a school teacher. Jan is a farmer and carpenter. Rioletta is just 14 years old. The Wessels decide they can't take chances anymore. The whole family signs up for a 3-day paramilitary defense course for Afrikaner farmers organized by the TAU, Transvaal Afrikaner Union.
Ek kom af en ek is hier bo met 'n doel en 'n job.
Salome hasn't gone out in public much since the attack. She's anxious even about registering. The day begins with prayer. There are 50 others on this course. Annette Caneli, an organizer of the course, says it's something they must do.
We have got the necessity and no choice really to safeguard ourselves. We can't rely on the government, we can't rely on the police, we can't rely on any of their structures.
Gideon Mering teaches inexperienced farmers like Salome and Jan how to defend themselves. Even children as young as 11 are learning how to aim, fire, and if necessary, kill.
I have to improve my self-confidence, and I have to learn my weapon very well. I am afraid of my weapon, so I have to do some training for myself. Ja, dis heel in die begin to get some self-confidence with it. I was very afraid to go outside. I was very afraid to walk around by myself. I don't have any trust in any people anymore, and I have to learn that again. My daughter is a very self-confident child. I only can thank God that she was coming with me on this course, so that she got the feeling of being behind the weapon and not in front of it. On Friday, the policeman brought back the knife that my husband had been attacked with. She cried a lot. Then she only realized that she has to go through this course with us so that she can also be prepared in the future. 18 years. 107. My husband is a little bit old. It is very, very important for him because the attackers always goes for old people.
We're not paramilitary at all. We only and purely focus on stability in our own areas.
Hy hang sou daar om daai knie te breek. Met ander woorde, hy slaan dwars deur en sy is kapot.
If I'm being expected to pay taxes, of which I might tell you, the white population pay the bulk of the taxes.
Langs die sneller en ek sit die wapen op die stuurwiel.
Wapen in die linkerhand.
Then I expect in return to be treated like a first-class citizen. Instead, I pay the taxes, I get robbed, I get murdered, I get raped, and I get treated like a third-class citizen.
If there is an attack on white farming community by any elements in the South African society, the state does not condone that. It condemns it. However, we must also look at the violence committed on 6 million people who live on white commercial farmland.
Here's what Dr. Sibanda is talking about. These tenant farmers were evicted from a white-owned farm 40 kilometers from Pretoria. Now they're living in tents. The farm is prime real estate. The owners are converting it into a suburban shopping mall. They offered the tenant farmers a compensation contract which most of them could neither read nor assess. For the grand sum of $65, they unknowingly gave up their right to remain on the land. Even though they are only tenants, South African law forbids the forcible expulsion of black farmers from white-owned land. But the contracts allowed the owners to circumvent that law.
The farm workers and labor tenants, they live under constant brutalization, dehumanization conditions. I mean, they must straighten that first before they can accuse of anyone of attacking the white farmers.
Today, 80% of agricultural land is still owned by white South Africans, who make up only 10% of the population. It's a pressing issue for South Africans of all colours, as we'll see after the break. Join me then.